城市里的小巷里的沉默里的你的手，慢热的体温，方向错了，天气预报不准雨伞，忘了拿我的手无处安放，包括我的心像旋转木马。或许这就是注定失败的结局，承受带来的孤寂，如滚水在心中漫溢。我的心你放在哪里？或许你根本就不在意，错的承诺好有趣，怎么对得起你我炙热的痕迹？你的心你放在哪里？在追求也毫无意义，接受后来的死去，总比到头来面对无声的失去，无法开口说声好不容易。我的心你放在哪里？或许我也不再沉迷，结束不安的游戏，人说就可以自由自在的讨喜，终于开口说声好不容易。
And we're back. Did you miss us?
Of course,
It's a whole,
I miss
yeah,
you
a whole other
lot.
next week. No, we're recording the same day, but again, I feel like every episode gets closer and closer to this being a podcast instead of a radio show, and our format keeps changing a bit. And for this one, as if you didn't notice, finishing the song from last week that I miscalculated the time and I was like, oh, we have time for the whole song. No, we didn't. But Ursula had a really good analogy for this.
Broken mirror?
Yeah, you called it a broken mirror.
It's a kind of a symbol when we are separate each other. We share the broken mirror piece by piece.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I love that.
So, we experimented, we tried it. I like it. It's fun. It's an easy way for us to finish recording, but I think, let's keep playing with it. We're being creative here. Let's play with the format. Don't have to be perfect and it can evolve, and that's great. If you have any thoughts about it, maybe you could email us. What's our email, Joanne?
Okay, let me tell you the address of email.
Please.
Exchange1- at naver.com.
Great. That's exchange
One
one
more?
dash.
Exchange1- at naver.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And so if you can hear, again, we have Ursula with us still, and it's Megan,
Hello
Joanne,
again.
and Ursula. Hello, Megan, Joanne, and
Thank
Ursula.
you for having me again.
Well, thank you for being here. Before when we were talking and getting ready for the episode, like we had lunch and then we chatted about it. It's just such a rich topic. And
So great.
It is. It really is. And so I think, giving it due respect and honoring these themes, taking our time. And so it evolved the episode. So here we are. And Joanne has, Joanne, as I always say, I always rave about how great Joanne is about these questions and the format. And I think that's really special. So if let's continue with the next question.
Questions.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I prepared some.
Yeah, thank you.
And then, I have some questions about. And then the first one is, especially in Korea,
Yeah.
when creating art using your body,
Yeah.
it seems like there might have been some difficulties,
Okay.
particularly as a woman. What would you say was the most challenging aspect?
So I mean, I guess. Do you mind if I start? Because I had the.
Please.
Oh, thank you. I guess I have like I've over. It's weird to say I have over a decade experience of using my body doing this. Like, because I don't really think about my age a lot. Like, I'm aware of it, but also, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, 32 is very young as well. But anyway, I think especially in Korea, but also it's globally. And I've lived in many places. I'm from the States, from a conservative part, but I've lived in the States, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, Finland, Taiwan, Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the places that I've lived, I would say. And I've visited other places. And there's difficulties everywhere, I would say.
Everywhere.
Yeah, I think, we're here and the two of you were raised here. And there is a specific kind of, you could say, society, patriarchy, misogyny that's here. And
Suffocating.
suffocating.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, please do. But that's a good word for it. And I think so many people, like I meet a lot of people and people joke, they go, are you sure you weren't raised in an Asian family? Because like there's so much similarities to how I was raised. But I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the West being so liberal and so this, that, or the other. I just think it comes.
I
Yeah.
thought
Well,
like that.
and we talk about this, but it's just different flavors of the same thing and different ways. Sure, you might be able to go to Spain and there are nude beaches, topless beaches, whatever that you probably wouldn't find here. But then there are other conservative things. Like when I was in Berlin, I literally went to the beach or went to like a lake area.
你的心你放在哪里？再追究也毫无意义。接受混乱的思绪，总比到头来面对无声的失去，无法开口说声好不容易。
城市滴答，小巷滴答，沉默抵挡你的手，慢热的体温，方向错乱，天气预报不准，雨伞忘了拿，我的手无处安放，包括我的心，像旋转木马。或许这就是注定失败的结局，承受带来的孤寂，如滚水在心中漫溢。
我的心你放在哪里？或许你根本就不在意。
你放在哪里？或许我也不再沉迷，结束不安的游戏，人手就可以自由自在的讨喜。终于开口，说声好不容易。
And we're back. Did you miss us?
Of course,
It's a whole
I miss
a
you
whole other
a lot.
next week. No, we're recording the same day, but I feel like every episode gets closer and closer to this being a podcast instead of a radio show, and our format keeps changing a bit. And for this one, as if you didn't notice, it's finishing the song from last week that I miscalculated the time, and I was like, oh, we have time for the whole song. No, we didn't. But Ursula had a really good analogy for this.
Broken mirror.
Yeah, you called it a broken mirror.
It's a kind of a symbol when we are separate each other. We share the broken mirror piece by piece.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I love
So, we experimented, we tried it. I like it. It's fun. It's an easy way for us to finish recording, but I think, let's keep playing with it. We're being creative here. Let's play with the format. Don't have to be perfect, and it can evolve, and that's great. If you have any thoughts about it, maybe you could email us. What's our email, Joanne?
Okay, let me tell you the address of email.
Please.
Exchange1- at neighbor.com.
Great. That's exchange
One
one
more.
dash. at-
Exchange1- at neighbor.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And so if you can hear, again, we have Ursula with us still, and it's Megan,
Hello
Joanne,
again.
and Ursula. Hello, Megan, Joanne, and
Thank
Ursula.
you for having me again.
Well, thank you for being here. Before when we were talking and getting ready for the episode, like we had lunch and then we chatted about it. It's just such a rich topic. And
So great.
it is. It really is. And so I think, giving it due respect and honoring these themes, taking our time. And so it evolved the episode. So here we are. And Joanne has, Joanne, as I always say, I always rave about how great Joanne is about these questions and the format. And I think that's really special. So let's continue with the next question.
Questions.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I prepared some.
Yeah, thank you.
And then, I have some questions about. And then the first one is, especially in Korea, when creating art using your body,
Yeah.
it seems like there might have been some difficulties,
Okay.
particularly as a woman. What would you say was the most challenging aspect?
So I guess, do you mind if I start? Because I had the.
Please.
Oh, thank you. I guess I have it's weird to say, I have over a decade experience of using my body doing this. Because I don't really think about my age a lot. I'm aware of it, but also, in the grand scheme of things, 32 is very young as well. But anyway, I think especially in Korea, but also it's globally. And I've lived in many places. I'm from the States, from a conservative part, but I've lived in the States, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, Finland, Taiwan, Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the places that I've lived, I would say. And I've visited other places. And there's difficulties everywhere, I would say.
Everywhere.
Yeah, I think, we're here and the two of you were raised here. And there is a specific kind of, you could say, society, patriarchy, misogyny that's here. And
Suffocating.
suffocating.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, please do. But that's a good word for it. And I think so many people, I meet a lot of people, and people joke, they go, are you sure you weren't raised in an Asian family? Because there's so much similarities to how I was raised. But I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the West being so liberal and so this, that, or the other. I just think it comes.
I thought
Well,
like
and
that.
we talk about this, but it's just different flavors of the same thing and different ways. Sure, you might be able to go to Spain and there are nude beaches, topless beaches, whatever, that you probably wouldn't find here. But then there are other conservative things. Like when I was in Berlin, I literally went to the beach or went to like a lake area, undressed, got fully naked, put on a swimsuit, went swimming, come out, take off my swimsuit again, and then put my clothes back on. And there's that. But then go to like Munich, that's not a thing. Sure, there is like a park where people do get naked, but it's just everywhere. There's something. There is something, and I think that's what's been hard being a woman in art who uses my body. And because it depends on the politics and the you could say the environment or the trends of society. There's a word I'm trying to think of and I can't think of it right now. Or the climate. There you go. The climate of thought of it. The climate of the world and the place you're in, and that fluctuates all the time. I mean, I was talking to someone. It's a man who filmed my performance, and he was like, I don't get why people are so like, why it's such a big issue that you're getting naked, because Korea's like most famous like video artist,
Baek Namjoon.
yes, and had a woman, was it playing the cello or the violin, with like TVs on her tits, like naked with TVs on her tits, like that. Maybe because the nipples were censored with TVs, but like that has been a thing. And so climates change. Also think about that, a dude using a woman, whereas hi, I'm getting naked of my own authority and autonomy. Even when I was in Glasgow, that given the nudity was a thing, like even it's weird, like the UK, maybe if I was in London it would have been a bit different, but the UK, there still is like this conservative, I felt a conservative just energy around the art I make, people almost being shocked that I was naked, and I'm like, what? This is 2020, then it was like 2021, 2022. I'm just thinking it's 2024. It's almost, I don't know, maybe it's a hot take, but I'm like, it's a little pathetic if you're shocked by tits. Like everyone has some version of a tit, nipple or not, any gender. So I think the difficulty is, I guess you could say, thoughts about body and about a woman having autonomy over body. And that changes from person to person, country to country, and yet there's still a vein that runs around the world about how, just like how when people say, oh, you need to protest in this way, you need to do this in this way, it's people have an idea about how you should do something, and if you deviate from that, if you go against that, it fucks with them, and they don't like it, and they challenge it. And being a young woman doing what I do and on the journey that I've been on, it's there's been a lot of difficulty in it, especially because I haven't had a ton of support, and I was always battling family, people who were interested in me, lovers, friends, whatever, always challenging, like, why the fuck are you doing what you're doing? And it just hasn't always felt like a choice. I just kind of knew I had to do this, and it felt like there was a big conviction within me, and there still is. It's been battered over time, but recently after my performance, especially, repowering was like to get back to that core of conviction, because it's been there, but it just I've battled a lot of hardship because of it, and felt like I couldn't do it, especially because I didn't have a lot of people in my camp, in my corner. And that sounds weird to say because I've been around the world and going, where do you find that? It's hard to do that sometimes, especially when you're a woman with a mission and this knowing that doesn't make sense to the majority of how most societies function. I just do things a bit differently, and I like to approach the world differently, and I decided to maybe go through the hard bits in order to like carve a new path, and that's made things harder than maybe most people would want their lives to be. But I think, long story long,
So I understand.
I think that's a difficulty. Yeah, go ahead.
So you mean that you felt always some kind of difficulties in all around the world,
Yeah.
and then but you need some kind of conviction in your mind.
Yeah, because I think
to
it's
do that
not
kind of
just
things.
a woman. Like, I mean, Ursula mentioned last week, like in last week's episode about like that literally baby you showed a photo, like a painting to your parents and that they were like, what is it? And that kills your spirit. I think any kind of creation it can be a difficult path. I think it's a beautiful and gorgeous path, but it challenges how the world thinks because it's easier to fit in a box. It's easier, yeah.
So to be creative means, you have to overcome some kind of barriers.
Always, yeah. Even within self, within society, I think, and even how you approach, like, what is creation, what is creativity, what is being an artist. I think that's really kind of the core of it. So that take away my gender, take away my gender expression, take away what I'm making, being creative and challenging how you go about living in the world is a challenge in and of itself.
Oh, so hard to get through.
Yeah. So like take that and then put my gender expression. Okay, being a woman, there are certain barriers about that. I am a white woman, and so sometimes there's ease within that. But I also, how I talk about things challenges my privilege and my whiteness. So like I can look the part and then I open my mouth and people go, ooh, like, oh God, okay. You don't uphold these structures that a lot of white women have been trained to do. And I've been, dismantling a lot of those within me and challenging that within myself. A lot of my work challenges people, but that's because I'm challenging myself constantly. I don't do it being like pointing, going, you need to work on this. Maybe you should think about this. I'm doing it to myself and have probably like cried about it a lot and screamed at myself or harmed myself like within it. And like, I battle within myself a lot too. So it's a challenge because it's also, you have to look at yourself. If I want to have a practice that encourages vulnerability, I have to be vulnerable first. And so that's challenging. So then, okay, there's my gender expression. Then put my content. That's a challenge as well. Not everyone is okay with being vulnerable. Not everyone is okay with looking at a body. Tits, like I said, scary. So I think there's challenges, but I also what keeps getting me by is reminding myself that I chose, even if it didn't feel like a choice, I've chosen this. And the choice is to be free in my authentic expression. And that's invaluable. So I love the journey I'm on and it's great, but it's fucking hard. And I think that's okay, that it's hard.
I have a question.
Please.
You have a question.
Thank you. Please ask.
Because I'm a beginner artist.
Beginner artist.
I think you aren't a beginner artist. You always have been, but like you're acknowledging your artist again.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes,
Anyway.
beginning artist.
You are not surrounded by people who are understanding on your work.
Yeah.
So you are not fully understood by the people you want to have that understanding. Is that right?
Yes. Part of what I had to learn on my journey is when to shed those people too. I think what's been hardest about one of the hard things, but I think in a lot of people, it's hard to shed family. And I knew from a young age that I had to do that, but that's hard to do when you have to be your own cheerleader. You have to be your own person going, you're doing a good job when so much of the world tells you not to. And that 2 years now I haven't spoken to family officially, but it was, it's been a long time, a long journey. Didn't speak to other family members prior to that. It's like a lonely journey in some ways, but it's also really rewarding. But yeah, sure, in the beginning it was, I just want them to understand me. Let's use my family as an example, or certain people that you're surrounded. You want your family, you want your community, you want your lovers, loved ones, friends to understand you. You also have to learn, I know I had to learn when to let that go and realize that I can't, because in order to be loved by them and understood, I had to be something I wasn't. So there's that aspect. Thinking then about like audience, for example, there is an aspect of wanting to be understood or at least connect and be heard. I think it's okay not to be understood, but at least be heard and acknowledged, if not recognized. I think that's maybe more of the journey now, especially now for me, because I've come to terms with a lot of things and healed through a lot of things. And I'm finding beautiful people. I'm sat here with two such beautiful people that I've beautifully connected with. And that to me is what's important. But then also going, okay, how then for a wider audience? Because yes, art is great to just make art, you know, the whole conversation, make art for art's sake, great. But like, now I think it's also completed when you connect. And I've had a lot of encouragement to be more seen and heard. And I think that's important. And so listening to audience and what they desire and maybe what the world needs while still being authentic and true to myself. Not diminishing that, but also like I could be, you know, my practice has to evolve too. And because I also want to connect, that means maybe focusing on things that make me connect with others as well. Does that answer the question?
Yes. But I am curious, what is the key factor to keep you going?
I don't know. I think it's that conviction. It's that inner knowing. It's that connection to creation that, like you said in our last episode, like, and I've talked to Joanne about this too, about, because I always challenge her. She's like, oh, I'm not artist. I'm not creative. I'm like, yes, you are. Like, everyone has a form of creation within them. I mean, you've brought me some delicious food. You how you even move through life is in your own creative expression, your own creative way. And I think that's there. So there's that. Some of us, I think I just had like a rude awakening maybe early on, and then stuck with that conviction of self. And it almost, for a long time, it's both a choice, the journey I've gone on, but it also has at times not felt like a choice. But it is ultimately a choice, because I've chosen the true authentic expression of self and this connection to creation that, like, I don't claim to be like genius or anything like that. I feel like a conduit of this creative expression, of this voice that has compelled me and propelled me through my life. And I've wanted to honor that and be a vessel for that, or to again use the word conduit for that. And because I feel that's more important than my own comfort. I guess that was the conviction I had.
I think that is a very brilliant answer to the question, what is art?
Oh.
Yes, because
What is art?
yeah, what is art? We usually think art is a creation of genius, or
Yeah, no.
it is very to be creative or something else we cannot achieve
Yeah.
as a normal people.
Yeah, how dare you think that you are genius? Yeah. How dare you normie do that?
Yeah. So it is very tricky question. What art is? What is art? We've been answering to that question for quite a long time.
Forever. What is art? You know.
We changed our answers according to the time.
Yeah.
So I love your answer
Oh, thank
because it's kind of process.
Yeah.
Not just make an output or make some degree of achievement. Instead, it's ongoing process.
It's a constant question, and your question, your answer to a question is just more questions. It's just more curiosity. Like I said in last week's episode about Joanne, you know, you today and last, it's like you talk about this ignorance, but I think that's such your curiosity to then be like, well, but I'm curious about this, and what don't I know? Like it's always a process, and we can always learn, and we can always keep going. And you're so right. It's a process. I mean, I at one point called it like creating within the how, and I don't know if I connect with that fully anymore, but it is just constant doing and whatever. And great that you find that to be an answer. But again, it's like an answer for now.
Yeah.
Because we have like, what is art? And then there's been a lot of gatekeeping of art and craft and belittling women's creation to then this intellectualized, more masculine, like male creation. Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, so that's why the appreciation of audience is very important. Actually, a part of art.
Yeah.
Because when we value of the artwork, it can become artwork.
Yeah.
But if we diminish the value of the artwork,
Yeah.
it became trash.
Yeah. And that's why, like, even in my work, I like to also, like, I see this as part of my artist practice. These conversations, these connections that I'm making with the two of you, what we're talking about, how we're talking about, that it's in the format of like a podcast radio show thing, and then that we had like songs in here too. Like, I think that's part of it. It's a some people would say that's just media or whatever, and I think it's because maybe it's the spirit in which we're doing it makes it part of, I would say, I see it as part of my artist practice, and it's an accessible form of art. So many times it's like Hollywood is this kind of celebrity, and then YouTubers, social media art, like they're not really celebrities. It's like, I think we need to really question. I also have opinions about who is artist and who isn't, not to diminish either or. I think there's an artist spirit and a creative spirit that's there. So I it's constantly challenging all of that.
Yeah. So we should trust ourselves.
I think that's a great thing. And to go back to the use of body, I think that's a huge thing, is trusting how you use body, how you navigate the world, is that trust. And that's where empowerment truly
It's not the matter of the artist. It's a matter of ours, both audience and the artist. It's a combination, mixture.
For sure.
Yeah, collaboration.
Yeah, always. And as someone who does a lot of performance and like does have, and these conversations is the whole collaborative process as well. And if people write in, that's also more of a collaborative process as well. And when I do performance, I need the feedback of audience, that we met in an acting class. There's that. But even any kind of creation, when you make dinner for someone, or when you like have a conversation with someone, it's all there. Yeah.
Yes, I believe art is in our dialogue.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. Anyway,
No,
let's go forward.
Let's go forward.
Should we have some time?
Please,
for summary.
Oh my God, thank you, Joe.
Yeah, and then 제가 질문을 어떻게 했냐면 그 바디 아트를 하는 여성으로서 어떤 어려움을 갖고 있지 않나 싶어서 질문을 했는데요. 그리고 우리나라에서 특히 어려울 것 같아서 그렇게 질문을 해봤고, 그다음에 다른 나라에서도 그런 어려움이 없었는지 그런 질문을 같이 했었는데요. 그거는 우리나라만의 문제는 아니었던 것 같아요. 세계 여러 나라를 많이 다니면서 메간이 그 바디 아트를 할 때 여러 가지 많은 그 보수적인 생각들과 그런 관습들에 부딪혀서 많은 어려움들을 그쪽에서도 많이 겪었다고들 합니다. 그건 단지 우리나라만의 문제는 아니었다고도 하네요. 그다음에 그 어디언스들로부터 이해를 받기를 원하지만, 그것보다도 더 중요한 건 내가 믿고 확신을 갖고 있는 그런 예술이라고 하는 것을 향해서 신념을 갖고 계속 나아가는 그런 과정이 훨씬 더 중요하다고들 두 분이 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 네, 좋은 얘기를 들은 것 같은데, 제가 갖고 있는 예술에 대한 생각이랑 좀 많이 달라서 다른 얘기들을 하시는 것 같아서 조금 혼동되기는 하거든요. 근데 많은 것들을 배우는 자리가 되는 것 같습니다. 정말 의미 있는 자리인 것 같습니다.
Thank you. Anything to add, Ursula, in Korean? No?
Beautifully summarized.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Thank you.
And thank you for saying that, because like I'm sat here always, and like I trust you, Joanne. I don't understand, and so it's nice.
That's the point. She doesn't understand.
You can talk anyway.
Honestly, you could like, I trust you, and like I sense a good energy from you. But like before, I knew you two were talking about me. I just didn't care. Like, this was outside of the recording, but so it is nice to have someone who understands be like, good job. Thank you. We can continue, or should we play a song?
Yes.
Should we play a wee
Please,
song?
the first song.
Okay, so we have the song that I had chosen for last time, but again, we're chatty. I'm chatty. I'm chatting the whole time. Sorry, y'all. So it's a song, I'll say it in the English pronunciation, so Anomaly Blue by the band L'Imperatrice. It's French.
French.
Yeah.
French
So-
song.
Here we go.
Une heure après la nuit, la foule est grise. J'aime regarder les gens qui se déguisent. Visiteurs impatients, chefs d'entreprise, livides évidemment sous leur chemise. J'étais là, blasée de fines couleurs, béton, des types en manteau brun, sans nom, sans âge. Et puis j'ai croisé son visage, une anomalie bleue qui brillait dans ses yeux. Une anomalie bleue, mon cœur battait si peu, une pulsation sur deux. Une anomalie, une anomalie, une anomalie, une anomalie bleue.
Here, if you don't mind my excuse, I want to be a devil's advocate. When you
Okay.
feel misunderstood by people, your frustration must be considerable. Nevertheless, if you remain authentic to yourself and keep going, do you believe that eventually more other people will understand you?
Do you mean misunderstood in general? Like if someone sees me and they're like, I don't understand you. Do you is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about in art?
Yeah, talking about in art. In art.
I mean, I think
especially in art.
Well, let me pose that question. Like, how do you feel? Like, how do you feel if you're misunderstood and you're really trying to wholeheartedly get across who you are and what you're doing?
I feel so depressed. And
Okay.
yeah, I feel down and I don't have any energy to stand up.
Oh, that's very dramatic.
Dramatic. You think dramatic.
It's. I mean, well, we can all be dramatic. That's okay. No, but that's quite extreme. So I mean, so I get where the question is coming from. I mean, how do you feel, like Ursula, when the feeling of doing something and then like being misunderstood? I mean, maybe in terms of art, like, or just in general.
It's very usual
Yeah.
not to be understood properly as I wanted, as I expected. I have few friends,
Okay.
and I'm so lonely because people don't want to understand my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, they define as they want. Why you don't have kids? Why you are not going where people want you to do or want you to go? Why are you not common? So I always felt I'm not fitting the situation. So that's why I do art. It makes me room to be myself.
Yeah.
And I don't want to exchange that for anything. And yes, it's very horrible, tricky to be alone, but that is the reason I want to make a kind of community, supporting from each other and supporting especially women artists with their interest and any kind of hospitality. Yeah. So, yeah, that's why I make my own art because I'm lonely.
I think that's talking about the feeling of misunderstood, that it is normal, right? And that you say that you go to art for it is fascinating, because you're going, okay, well, I don't have kids, and sure, I'm married, but it's, even though you did do maybe a more conventional, quote unquote, lifestyle for a while, you still maybe now especially go about life differently. And there's always a criticism of, oh, you didn't do this. But then again, maybe someone who does do the quote unquote normal way of, they're going to be criticized as well, especially as women, female presenting people, or queer people, whatever. But you chose art, which, sure, there is maybe more community in that, but that's also a different way of living. I mean, I'm sat over here going, I'm an artist, which is, I'm learning more and more an unconventional lifestyle, which felt weird for me to learn. Because I'm not in like a ignorant kind of way, a little bit, but like it's just normal to me and who I am. And so I just followed it, and I've been learning like, oh wait, this is an odd way to live, because I had come up against a lot of pushback and a lot of hardship and a lot of adversity because of other things. And so then I just didn't realize that it was, it's also because I'm an artist. But I'm also sat here, not married, no children. So I have like kind of and maybe there's a defiance in me that wants to be like, but I can still, even if not everyone understands me, I can still show, or through example, that it's a possible way to live. And that's more than okay. So maybe like both ways of Joanne saying like, it's really hard, especially when you're putting your heart and soul into, I'm just trying to tell you a thing. And sometimes people are just adamant to not understand you. But it's also, as Ursula says, a fact of life. So then if Joanne, you're asking like within art specifically, like how does that feel, and how does maybe how do you keep going amidst that?
That's right.
Yeah. So
That's the very confusing point to me, and then very, want to know about that.
yeah. So meaning, so when you're like, because you feel so devastated with not being understood, or being misunderstood, rather, to then be like, well, why do you keep going? I mean, I think we've kind of touched on some of this before, and please derail me if you all need to. I didn't get sleep. I'm also chatty. So, but no, okay. I also don't want to keep saying that, because like, sure, I am, but I'm also starting to demonize it and make it a joke, and like, maybe it's a beautiful thing about me, but also sometimes I can shut up. But it's I don't know why I keep going. I mean, I do and I don't, and I don't think I need to. Like I said earlier, it's just who I am. This, and I sometimes, sure, I notice where I get a little stubborn in how I'm creating. Like, well, you should. Why can't I live life like this? And why? And I when I go about doing. It's because it's not just creation. It's also, as Ursula was saying, like how you live life. And that's also misunderstood, which is part of and fully intertwined in a symbiotic relationship with the work that I make. And so when there are moments where I am in utter despair and loneliness and hardship, and, sometimes it does feel almost impossible to get out. And I'm saying it kindly and nicely, but it's been very, very extreme at times, because I've been so alone, and I've thought maybe I just shouldn't continue, and I not just creating art but living, and because no matter how hard you just are being authentic and trying to, not even just trying, just simply doing and being, and that the people that surround you sometimes violently say, hey, you're a piece of shit for doing what you do. Yeah, of course that gets hard. and it goes through phases, and obviously it would be nice if there were more people at times, but I recall my most recent performance, and there were moments of frustration, but I of like, oh, okay, I feel not fully misunderstood, but like some people, there was extra pity, there was this, that, or the other. Somebody wanted to buy my photographs to have a wank, and I'm like, well, I can't control what you do with my art. But I then had to go, okay, how can I improve as artist to help navigate, help steer the situation, but also sometimes that might just not be your audience. And I've talked to people after that now, and how I've had quite a few people just go, wow, that I've gained so much from seeing that. And so it's I get not clinging, but just acknowledging and seeing success in those, maybe what some might call little moments, but I don't think it's little. Like if you impact someone that much, or even if you learn something from it, I for me, the biggest reward is I get to continue being me. And even if I lose sight of that at times, I keep going for a reason. So I don't know, maybe some people have used the word brave or strong, and I'm like, oh, it's just who I am. And I don't know, you just have a vision and a knowing, and you keep going because you gotta. The word I use with my therapist, well, I do it because I must, even if there is misunderstanding. And I've gone the extreme way of I've gone around the world, and I'm estranged from my family, and I've lost friends and lovers, and there is loneliness. Sometimes this path is lonely. But I think that's what makes those who do understand it, and when you do find those people, all the more beautiful and fulfilling and enriching. And yeah, it's really how you define success within that.
We cannot, we
go
cannot stop living, even though we are surrounded by who doesn't like us or who doesn't love us. So for me, art is a way of living.
A way of living.
Yeah.
Itself.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
We cannot stop.
You can't. It's who you are. I always say my work, and I just said it like it's a symbiotic relationship, my art and my life. And you say it's we live and breathe, and all of us are creative. Some of us just maybe are more sensitive to that conduit of creation than others. And that's why, we're touted as artists and see, wow, the artists, the leaders, the pioneers in some ways. And it's just like, well, we just have a connection to sensitivity that
And then I think that, the point is that the art is to connect the people and make some good path through to the empathy and communicating together, and inspire some energy or some feeling. I think art is a kind of sophisticated way of talking. So understanding each other is very good momentum to keep flowing. How do you think?
Yeah. If
Is there any spots a little bit weird
within saying that, I think using the word empathy is helpful. Connecting, sure. I think the danger maybe comes in when people put maybe too much pressure on the artist and want the artist to spell out everything, whereas just as like with music, art is its own language, and that's not to say, hi, I'm gonna make a thing and deal with it. Because there have been moments where I had wanted to do that, not fully, but like a little bit in my career. I'm like, well, I'm making this thing, how dare you put a different meaning on it, or like, how dare you see it as this way? But you have to acknowledge that, like, just as people might in an aggressive way put a different meaning on it, so too, like, it goes the other way of when people want to have their hand held through the whole experience, and that's not how it is. You just so if there's connection, it's because I made a thing, and then you bring your experience to it, and that enriches it. And if you find that valuable, I think that's why we do find art valuable. But yeah, when you put too much pressure on the artist, though, in some ways of like, okay, you're the change maker, but like sometimes all I'm meant to do is like point out the issue, and sure, I can maybe help facilitate that and like call on my expertise or like artist expertise. But those who have maybe more influence or more money, more power, whatever, they can have that, or just have a conversation with someone. That's also making change in the world.
I truly understand and agree with what you are saying because art, too, as I said, is in our dialogue, not in a museum.
Oh, so
or-
impressive! A word
yeah.
Megan used the word language. Art is a language, and you used the dialogue.
Yeah.
Art is
As you said, when we communicate with each other, and when you said when we are emphasized by the artwork, we truly appreciate what's the intention of this work or why it come about in this era. So I do believe what you are saying. Empathy is so important in art scene or art world, and when we appreciate artwork. But it doesn't mean that there are rare people who understand, who are emphasized with that artwork, the value, define the value of artwork. I'm truly connected with people who need help rather than who conquer the world or who are very dominant over the world.
And dictate what it means.
Yeah.
Because that's also, we live in a world that has kind of built that within academia. And Korea's definitely guilty of this, but so is like a lot of higher education institutions. You want to define this. This is the one way to read this book. This is the one way to look at this artwork. And that's not true. Why isn't it beautiful and enriching to be like, hi, these are all these different interpretations, all these different. So it's the curiosity I feel like I hear from you, Ursula, that's sometimes more beautiful, and maybe not knowing what it's about and being curious as to why you don't know what it's about, or maybe you don't know what it's about to you, then someone coming in and saying, this means this means that. And sure, knowing aspects around and the circumstances around the person's life who made the work and or just the time of them internally, externally is helpful, but it's not solely it. And fully dictating what something means can, I think, get dangerous.
Artists are pioneers,
pioneers.
who have never been before. So as an artist, I need to trust myself heading to somewhere I have never been before.
Yeah.
So it needs to be daring.
Yeah.
So I want to supportive who someone who are very daring and bold, brave.
And who support you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how many people love my work, but I truly want to be supportive who needs my help.
And support comes in so many different ways, whether
Yeah.
it's you're finding, we could talk about the whole thing, what makes art successful and what is the type of success you want, but also what defines that success for you and how do you define it? And that also can mean like support. What do you define as support? And sure, I think it's so valuable to have loving, amazing humans in your life. We need that kind of support for sure. But something I know I've acknowledged is sometimes it's supportive, quote unquote, when someone hurts me for what I make, and because it forced me to look at it in a different way, or to maybe double down and say, no, this is why I need to make the work I'm making, because they connected to it. Maybe they didn't want to connect. It was shocking to them and it scared them, and then they blamed me for it. But that's also part of art. Like, you make people see things that maybe they're ready to see and be curious about and question and have conversation, which you were talking about is a beautiful, like, that really makes art, and it takes it out of the museum, which is, I think, is why people, I know I like to be not in white cube spaces, because it takes it out of that pressure of one way of looking at something, but it's within the conversations, it's within daily life. But yeah, it's very much how it can be supportive for someone to not be supportive, if that makes sense. Sorry, my mind like blanked, and I'm like, how do I get back to this?
Okay, let me have time to for some one more.
Thank you.
One more?
I
Okay,
will-
go ahead.
I'll drink my coffee either way.
I forgot everything.
No. One of the function of art is defeating our perception.
defeating our
Yeah.
perception.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And also the artist's own perception. I think
That's
so defeating our
Yeah.
some kind of barrier.
barrier,
Uh-huh.
perception, prejudice,
Mhm.
yeah.
or
Prejudice.
very,
Bias,
yeah,
some kind
bias,
of
yeah.
concept.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So even including my own perception.
Mhm.
So I don't pursue